Black Ops 2 is undoubtedly a beautiful game. It's colorful, it has lots of detail, and most of that detail isn't even in the maps we play in, but it's what surrounds us. So what I wanted to do with this is begin a sort of episodic series where I will look at 3 or so maps every time I do a video like this, and I will show you guys some of the highlights of the things that I found out of bounds while using a mod menu. I have to be honest with you guys. I was a little bit shocked to see that Aftermath doesn't have a whole lot of goodies outside of the bounds, but on the same token, it did sort of make sense because with such an expansive map such as Aftermath, of course you'd need a lot of time, a lot of dedication to allocate so much detail to what's accessible. So as for what's unaccessible, it makes sense why there's nothing particularly super cool in this map, but I figured I'd show you guys a couple things anyway. One thing I was curious about was the Agora tank. I was shocked to see that it wasn't even in 3D. It may look 3D because of the way it moves in accordance to the player and where they're looking, but yeah, it's not 3D. I tried to line myself up with it like directly, and no, there's no model to it. It's just a picture, and I don't really know how they make it work, but whatever it is, it was kind of cool, and I figured I'd show it anyway. Another thing I want to touch upon, there's not much collision outside of the map. Usually Treyarch has a lot more than this, but there was 2 distinct places that I found a lot of collision, and this was one of them, and there's barely any here. It's also worth noting that a lot of the cars here don't explode when you throw something explosive at them. They do show bullet holes though. I'm not sure how the bullets work in this game, but yeah, there is not a lot to these cars. One of the things you'll notice about Aftermath is behind the opposing spawn, there is a very low resolution building that you can see very easily. It's right there, it's right behind you, and if you have a sniper scope, even without zoom, very easy to see. Now, I understand that there's probably a lot of technical limitations with making a map so grandiose such as Aftermath, but yeah, no, I don't know why that building in particular looks so bad when everything surrounding it looks infinitely better. What is behind this door? A room with a floor but no walls. But it does have collision, which is surprising. I was shocked to see it did in fact have collision. Maybe it was a beta element that they were going to put in here, but maybe they decided not to for whatever reasons. Yeah, but there's a floor here, and it functions. It does what a floor is supposed to do. I wanted to check the inaccessible elevator just to see if there's anything cool about it, and while there is a number pad and it does look pretty decent, there's nothing super special about it, but I figured I'd share it anyway. The last thing I wanted to show you guys was this image, where if you look at it from inside the map using a sniper rifle, the image just glitches out and looks all pixelated. I don't know why that is, but that's the last thing I wanted to share. Not out of bounds, but if you have God mode enabled and you stand beneath a descending container, it won't descend anymore until you leave. The machine that picks up the container doesn't have any collision to it, so you can't stand on top of it or anything like that. If you no-clip onto a container that's on top of another, you can stand on the second container, but as the machine pulls it upwards, it will knock you out of its grasp. On my way to look at the cargo ship, I realized that there's this weird sort of eclipse kind of look to the skybox in the water, and I don't know why that is. When I came to look at the cargo ship, I was surprised that the level of detail here wasn't too bad. I didn't expect it to look anything like the insides of the map itself, which made sense, but no, I was impressed with just how much detail was put in this specific part of the map, because you're not going to see most of this no matter what angle you're at. You're just too far. There's another cargo ship off in the distance. There's actually a few here, and it has lesser detail and no cargo on it whatsoever, but I figured I'd look at it anyway, which leads us to this other one right over here. So it's a very similar boat, I find. There's nothing too special about this, but it led me to look elsewhere, just at this general part, which surprisingly enough, there was collision on this path. In this path, went on for one hell of a long trip. I decided to embark on the journey, and it did really go on for a long time. Hell, the ground on my left was changing as I was doing it, which I didn't really understand, but that didn't matter. And the water went on longer. The water went on longer, and even at the end, the path still had collision. Weirdly enough, the ground did too. It has collision too, but I returned to where I came from. I returned here to just get a general look at the area that we were in, and I did fall through the map, surprise, surprise. But after quickly getting back up, I decided to keep having a look around, and yeah, the detail here is pretty good. I don't think you'd be able to see any of this, or at least not most of this, because spectator mode only lets you go so far. Now, if we come back here, the collision here is inconsistent at best, where I started walking on top of the water. Yeah, explain that one. I don't know where it came from, but here I am, just walking on water, or running on it, rather. It was interesting to note that this building did have some collision in it. For some reason, wherever I flew into is where I'd be stuck standing on, but that was alright. And then I quickly took a gander around the backside of the map, so I wanted to see what was over here. I want to look more in the back area, and it does have a lot of collision to it, and there's plenty of room to explore. There are some invisible walls you do have to watch out for, but you can run up some of the road before the collision gives out, but you'll notice beyond this point, the resolution of things does begin to give out. Over here, the road just eventually gives out, and you're left with these low-resolution buildings, but I actually did want to take a look and speak upon that tall building in a bit. As I kept flying out, this glare appeared, which, if somebody could explain how that functions to me in the comments, I'd love that, but it's okay if that doesn't happen. Now, I want to draw your attention to this building because I saw something interesting. Yes, as the building gets taller, it eventually becomes completely transparent, and then you can see the top. My idea, my sort of opinion on why this might be done, is from the distance, it looks like the building is sitting really high up in the clouds, and eventually surfaces above it. But before we end cargo, I have one more place to show. But first, we must give a shout out to Getty Images. Thank you, Getty Images. Thank you for making an appearance on this episode. So now I want to direct you to the left side of the map, where there's actually a lot to uncover here. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this with you guys. So as soon as we go out of bounds, a lot of the collision with walls and objects and things like that, they're not here. But at the very least, we can still walk on the road. So that's a pretty big plus. Going down this way, there is yet again a whole extra pathway that goes on for a very, very, very long time. And yet again, the water still branches further. It makes this path look pitiful by comparison, but it kind of has a bit of a, what looks to be hexagonal shape to it. I'm not sure how to describe it, but yeah, it's out here, and it's far. I also want to take a look at this far-off building right here, and I was kind of curious to see what it was, because before it didn't really look like your traditional kind of building, and I don't think you can see this from the map, but again, I could be wrong. I froze a shot here, but just get a view of cargo. Just how truly small the map is in comparison to the landscape around it. The landscape is absolutely massive, but the map is so minuscule. When I got over here to check out where the bridge led, I saw these stony towers, and it ran into a hill. But there was one thing about this section that caught me off guard, and even from where we were last time, I didn't realize this would happen. The water has collision, and while I lost the gameplay for this, you can see I've safely landed on the water. So if you were here normally, you would die instantly, but if you do have God mode and you make it down here, you won't die. And I did find something quite interesting. There's actually a spot that glitches where if you stand in just the right location, watch, keep watching, all these water particles just come up, and I don't know where they come from, but standing here long enough will lower your frame rate momentarily. Yeah, look right there. That was pretty bad. But yeah, I don't know why it happens, but it does. The back area doesn't even really have collision minus a couple key points, but I decided to quickly direct my attention to one of the ships way over there. These ships don't have the most detail in the entire world, but they're more than suitable for where they are in relation to where the map takes place. So I tried to climb up these towers to see if there's any collision on the higher platforms, and there sort of is, but you just sort of glide over top of it instead of landing on it. I don't really know how it works, but figured it was worth checking out, and it's cool that you can at least interact with it a little bit. When I was a little bit younger, I wanted to see what was in that space. What were we exactly prohibited from entering? Well, I decided to take a look. And the stairs don't even have collision. And this is the weird part. The stairs don't have the collision, but when you actually go in the platform itself, it does. And there's an invisible wall that separates you from the stairs and this platform. So that's gonna have to end my video here. I understand that Carrier didn't have the most out of bounds secrets of all time, but since it's such an isolated map and all it really has surrounding it is a few ships and water, there's not really a whole lot to look at versus, say, Cargo or even Aftermath beats in that regard. But thank you guys for watching. I hope that you had taken an active interest in maybe just learning about some of the out of bounds components that makes our maps what they are. So, yeah, hope you enjoyed, and I wish you all the best. Take care for now. Goodbye.